Welcome back. It has been quite a long time since I've sat down and made a video about this topic, but I wanted to provide a 2-year update on how I'm doing post-op. Now, when I say 2 years, I really mean a little bit more because I'm filming this in February of 26 and I had surgery November of 23. So it's 2 years and like 3 months, roughly. So I'm a little bit past 2 years. I meant to record this video when the 2-year mark hit, and then for whatever reason, it didn't happen. So here we are. So I have some things that I want to mention with this. I'm gonna try not to make this too long because when it comes to this topic, I can get just a little bit long-winded. So we'll try to keep it a little bit short. Now, first thing I want to talk about, and this is in no particular order of importance or anything, just general updates. In terms of fears, I have developed some fears post-op. One of them is, let me backtrack. If you're new here, my apologies. I had brain surgery in November of 2023. So this is my 2-year update, 2+ year update from having brain surgery. And they did the operation exclusively through my nose. They didn't take a chunk off my head, which is called a craniotomy. So I had an endonasal approach to brain surgery. I should have said that in the beginning. But with that being said, I have developed a fear of dropping something on my face. And mostly this is weights when I'm working out, especially if I'm pushing weight above my head or if I'm like leaning back, doing like bench press, something like that. But I just always have a fear of dropping something on my face. Have I ever dropped something on my face in the past, something heavy? No. But now I don't want to say terrified, but every time I'm in the gym, I think about it. And that kind of goes along with my next one. Every time I work out, I think about the surgery. And that's because when they go up your nose, they drill through 2 bones and then they remove the tumor and then patch you up. But patching you up is basically covering those holes with a synthetic graft, and then scar tissue develops around it. So the part of the bone that they drill through is permanently gone. The bone doesn't regrow. And so the scar tissue is what heals it, but the scar tissue is never as strong as the original bone. So with that being said, when I'm working out and I'm exuding a lot of pressure, whether it's running, whether it's lifting heavy, I'm always imagining like my increased heart rate putting a lot of pressure on that surgery site, that weakened site. And then one day I just always have this fear that pressure is going to bust through it. And if that happens, I would have a brain fluid leak, which would lead to a brain infection. Obviously, I'd be in the hospital, all of that. Now, the likelihood of that happening is very low, but it's not impossible. Think this. If you've seen any kind of powerlifting competitions, and in the powerlifting world, I think this is fairly rare too, but you might see somebody deadlift like super, super heavy weight. You see it more in the men, but they might bust a blood vessel in their eye or they might have a nosebleed, and that's because they're exuding so much pressure to lift up that heavy weight that it kind of, eventually the pressure has to like go out somewhere. So a blood vessel will pop, they'll have a nosebleed, something like that. So that's what I imagine could potentially happen to me with that surgery site, because like I said, it's a lot more vulnerable than I was pre-op. So those are the kind of main fears that I have. The last one, I'm pretty much over this one, but it's taken 2 years to get over it, is swimming. Now, if you watched some of my videos before, I'm pretty sure I mentioned I couldn't go underwater for a while. So I had surgery in November. That next summer of 24, I didn't go underwater at all. I went to the pool, I went to the beach, all of that, but it was from here down. Now, summer of 25, which was last summer, was the first time I went underwater, and I was terrified. The issue is, I couldn't go underwater in the beginning because I needed to heal, And if there was any kind of, which obviously there is, bacteria, anything in the water, it would have had a straight sight or straight shot to my brain, pretty much. And that could have led to a brain infection. So I was just very strict on, I'm not going underwater. If there were people around who were splashing and stuff, I just wouldn't go in. But last year, 2025, I went under for the first time. I was cleared to go under, but I still had those, nerves. But I remember the exact moment I did it. I just gave myself a mental, countdown. I was like 3, 2, 1. I went under the water. And then when I came up, I was just kind of standing there waiting to see what was going to happen. And luckily, obviously nothing happened. But, I think this upcoming summer of 26, I'll be fully good to enjoy the water, jump in, go under, the whole shebang. So that's kind of it in terms of fears. Now let's talk a little bit about lingering side effects. I do have sinus drainage issues, and I think this is just gonna be ongoing. Basically, your sinuses kind of work in the background if you're healthy and you haven't had this type of surgery, because my surgery is considered brain surgery, but it's also considered sinus surgery since they have to go through the sinuses. And so normally your sinuses will drain in the background and you won't even notice it. But when you have this operation, that drainage process is not as efficient as it was post or pre-op. So, and this is a little bit gross, and I talked about this on my channel before, but basically I get a backup of like mucus and stuff pretty much because it's not draining. And then what happens is it sits there and then it dries out and it hardens, and then I can feel that process happening, but because it's happening like way up here, I can't really do anything in the moment. And then a random time I'll sniff and that hardened mass will like get dislodged, and then it'll either, this is gonna be so gross, it'll either shoot out of my nose because it'll dislodge, and then it'll kind of tickle, but it like a tickle hurt feeling. And so I'll instinctively kind of like blow my nose. So it'll come out, or if I sniff kind of hard, it'll like shoot down and I'll swallow it. And then I'm not even gonna get into all of that, but just know it's uncomfortable. So that is something that I still deal with. And I think it's just my new kind of reality. Another thing, and I'm just looking at, I wrote some of this stuff down. If I go straight to laying completely flat on a bed or whatever, I initially get this dizzy feeling. I have to kind of take my time, or I have to lay down with my kind of pillows propping me up some. But laying completely flat makes me kind of dizzy, and it takes a little bit for my equilibrium to adjust to it. So I don't feel like I'm gonna pass out or anything, but it's just, you notice it immediately. And sometimes the same thing will happen when I stand up too fast. If I go from laying down and then I just get right up and walk somewhere or whatever, sometimes I'll get that kind of dizzy feeling where I have to just slow down for a minute, let myself equalize, and then I can, keep going. That happens. And then it was something else. This is the other thing that I don't think is going anywhere. I still cannot have my head below my heart. Because if I'm doing something like stretching after a workout where I'm reaching down and touching my toes, I have about 5 seconds max before I can feel all of the blood pooling like right behind my right eye. And it hurts. It's uncomfortable. And if I tried to, if you all hear something, it is super windy outside and the wind is making my balcony. Did you hear that? It's making the balcony door. It sounds like someone's coming in, but they're not. But anyway. Okay, what was I saying? Having my head below my heart. I can just feel all of the blood pool right there, and it hurts. So I cannot be in that type of inverted position at all. And I don't think that's gonna go anywhere, because one of my surgeons told me that the surgery site is always gonna be a weak spot in my head. So like I said, because the bone is not there and it's just scar tissue, it's gonna react different than if it was bone. So that's something that I can't do, but it is what it is. It's not that serious. You can find other ways to stretch or whatever. Another thing I want to talk about, well, before I get to that, I did have a bit of an insurance issue. I can't remember if I talked about this on my channel, but last August or September, so I went to Johns Hopkins for my operation, and they were having a lot of issues with United Healthcare, which is who I have insurance through. And I heard a lot of doctors' offices and stuff were having issues with United. So they decided to drop United from their network. And of course I panicked because I'm like, this is who I have. I need to be able to, keep going to the hospital for annual checkups. So luckily United gave its members, whatever, a 30-day period to apply for continuing of care coverage. Now, I know at this point it doesn't matter, so I think I talked about it in that moment, but I'll just sum it up here. So you had 30 days to apply for continued coverage, and you had to go to each of your doctors to have them apply on behalf of you. So go through the whole stress of that, and luckily, by the grace of God, I was accepted, and so I can continue to go to Hopkins to receive treatment. But in the moment, it was very stressful because even though I had hit my 2-year mark, I have to go annually to get checkups and, be monitored for at least 5 years. And then after that, I have to go every roughly 2 or 3 years. So I'm still very much in that 5-year period. I'm like, I need to go. And the follow-up visits are expensive, you can imagine. So luckily that all worked out. Now, the last thing I really want to talk about is how grateful I am to be able to connect with other people who have had this surgery or who are getting ready to have it. Since I created this channel and, started talking on my social media about my experience, I've had a lot of people reach out to me, whether commenting or DMs, and they are going through the same thing. And it has been very fulfilling to be able to talk to people, especially when they are getting ready to have their surgery, because obviously I remember what it felt like, and I was trying to find people online who had gone through this, and I could ask them questions and stuff, and it was kind of hard for me to find that. So I decided, well, I'll just do it for the next person who's going to have brain surgery. So when people hit me up and ask my experience with, whatever aspect of preparation for surgery or, side effects, anything like that, I feel very grateful and humbled to be able to provide some comfort to people, because this is very scary. It's very challenging. It's all of the above. However you think you would feel going into a brain surgery is pretty much how it is. It's nerve-wracking, it's all of the above. So to be able to connect with people who are in the same boat as me has just been the best part of this unfortunate experience. And I say unfortunate because I don't regret it. I don't regret having a tumor. I don't regret this journey. I don't regret it. I've learned so much about myself. I have grown so much in these past, really it's 3 years since I was diagnosed with the tumor. Well, next month marks 3 years. March of 2023, I got diagnosed. And then November, I had surgery. So we're coming right up on my 3-year diagnosis time. And, it's not like I would want to go through this again. No. I pray to God I don't have any more tumors or, have to have any type of operation. But this experience has been extremely transformative for me. So I don't regret it. I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for being able to be of service to others. I think you all know what I mean. So that aspect is very humbling. And anytime somebody reaches out to me having questions about it, I just thank God that I'm able to provide some help. And there have been people who I have kept in contact with. Some people might comment a quick, whatever, and I'll respond. But there are some people who I have stayed in contact with, and they will reach out to me, or I'll reach out to them, asking how you're doing, all of that type of stuff. So, and it's been people all over the country. And I think some people might have been international. So being able to connect like that is really a benefit of the internet. Now, I'm not going to go into all the negative sides of the internet, but for this situation, it has been extremely positive for me. So I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be alive and to be thriving. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to mention, a question I get a lot is, how long did it take for me to get back to normal after surgery? And I don't think there's a true black and white answer to that, because I had to create a new normal for myself. Once you go through this, in many ways, you're a different person, and you're not gonna be that person that you were prior to surgery. So you definitely have to create a new normal for yourself. And like for me, I listed those fears. I'm scared of dropping something on my face after having never done it before. So that's like a new normal for me. Or when I work out, I constantly think about it. So there are things that are just going to kind of be in place most of the time going forward. So yeah, I don't really know how to answer my new normal, especially now that I'm 2+ years post-op. I'm like, yeah, maybe when I was 6 months, I thought that I was back to myself, but really now in hindsight, I'm like, no, I wasn't. That's when I was really starting to go through the thick of the mental recovery for this. So if you have to have this operation, try not to go into it thinking, okay, in 3 months or 6 months, I'll be back to myself and life will be back to normal. I'm not trying to project anything onto you, but just know, just give yourself grace. Things aren't going to happen as quickly as you may think, because this recovery, the mental aspect of this recovery, is a lot longer and, in my opinion, more challenging than the physical recovery. I've always said, if you give your body the right environment to heal, it will heal. Meaning, if your doctor tells you you need to rest for X amount of time, if you rest, your body will heal. If you give yourself the proper nutrition, your body will heal physically. Mentally is a whole different ballpark. So take your time with the mental aspect. Understand it is a roller coaster. You will have your highs, you will have your lows. And then the further away you get from the operation, the more you will be kind of steady. But for the first year, it will be like this. After that first year, the highs and lows, at least for me, were not as drastic, because like there'll be a high up here and a low down here. So after that year, it might be like this, where it's less space between the highs and the lows, but it's still distinct highs and lows. And then once you're more of like the 2-year mark, you'll kind of be on a little more of a cruise control, because that's the space that I'm in now, where it's more like, okay, I'm good. I never forget, obviously, what I've been through, and I think about it often, but I don't really have those lows anymore. A lot of the anxiety has subsided, but I had to go through it for the first 2 years to really get to this point, obviously. So that's what I have for this 2-year update. I'm almost at 20 minutes, so let me kind of wrap this up. If you have any questions or any kind of specific topics you'd like me to cover, I would love to do that. But yeah, it's been an interesting, overall, really good 2 years. So if you have any questions, please let me know.